everybody, this is Nam Talks from NTF Gaming, and I'm back with another Factual Opinions, the only place to get the correct opinion on the state of video games. And for this episode, we are going to be taking a look at Volition's newest title, Agents of Mayhem. Now, as all my video reviews go, I will not have any spoilers in my discussion or in the video itself, so if you haven't played the game yet, feel free to watch and listen. I will not be spoiling anything here. So let's get right into the game. Now, as you know, Volition has made a lot of great titles, including a little franchise that you may know by Saints Row. Now, the Saints Row franchise has gone through its, metamorphosis and has started off as the San Andreas clone with its own personality and spark, and moved into something much bigger, much more broader. It got really gritty and crazy, then got crazy and over the top, and then just went fucking balls out and into space. So it went through the full franchise leap of started off grounded, ended up in space with the Earth getting blown up, and this is their first new title since the entire falling out of THQ, them going bankrupt, Deep Silver acquiring the IP, and I feel like all that is important because Saints Row definitely has a mark on Agents of Mayhem. They share a similar DNA. In fact, the game takes place in an alternate version of the Saints Row universe, and that comparison works for and against Agents of Mayhem in multiple ways. So I will just get the good out of the way first. I really enjoy Agents of Mayhem. For all the problems I have with it, it keeps pulling me in. I'm playing it on PC. It looks fantastic. It runs great. I haven't really had any bugs. I've only had it crash one time. So on a technical level, I don't know how the console versions run, but at least on PC, for me, it's running really smoothly. The sound is a bit more problematic, and I feel like breaking it down by simple graphics, sound, gameplay isn't going to work for this game because the problems with it are not as obvious as just pointing at any one technical issue. The game is fun to play. I like the movement of the characters. I feel like the shooting, the impact, the melee attacks, the driving, the jumping, everything about actually controlling the agents and moving around the environments and interacting with the enemies and the vehicles, I think are actually the best that Volition's ever done. Everything's really solid. It has nice, satisfying sounds, and the guns have a really good impact, and it just feels good. The driving is much better. It has a lot more weight, more like a Crackdown than a Saints Row. It's not so slidey and ice skate feeling. The cars feel solid, as long as you're driving one of the agency vehicles. However, the issues I have with this game are sadly areas beyond just the raw gameplay. Now, it's an open world game. You play as these superpowered agents who go around fighting the Legion, and I don't really want to go too much deeper than that because finding each agent, doing their missions, getting their backstories, and how they interact with each other and with Legion, I think, are the highlights of this game, and I feel like those are the best moments of Agents of Mayhem. Those are the moments that will keep you wanting to play the storyline and see the next storyline cutscene, see the next animated moment, get the new agent, see their powers, see how they play. That is the main thing propelling you through this game, because this is where we get into the downside. I actually feel like in terms of the open world structure, the side missions, the variety in actual objectives that you're chasing after are very poor. Now, when I say that, when you look at every single open world game, here's a shocker, every single open world game is repetitive. Doesn't matter which open world game it is, whether it's Grand Theft Auto or Red Dead Redemption or Horizon Zero Dawn or the previous Saints Row games, every open world game by its very nature has a lot of stuff in it that repeats. That's what helps fill out the world. That's what helps, get you going with side content and little unlockables here and there. The problem with Agents of Mayhem is that when you look at an open world game and you know that it's going to have these repetitive pieces of side content, other parts of the game have to make up the difference so that you don't focus so much on how repetitive it is. Shadow of Mordor had the amazing Nemesis system. Grand Theft Auto just has the overall feel of the environment and the world that you're in, with how realistic it feels. The previous Saints Row games had really crazy life when it came to pedestrians and the city and the vibe the game was giving you, the over-the-top atmosphere, the characters, the dialogue, the humor, and the co-op. All of that was really important because it disguised the fact that you're doing the 9th Hot Fuzz mission in a row because, you're laughing with your buddy, having a good time, or you're listening to one of the crazy radio stations. You're just watching how crazy the world can interact with each other and with you and your character's reaction to said things. All that helps disguise how repetitive those things were. Also, the unlockables are really good. Getting like unlimited ammo or invincibility or super jumping. They had very tangible rewards that made them worth doing. In Agents of Mayhem, the biggest problem is it feels like they sucked the soul out of the game. Now, in terms of the characters and their personalities, they're fantastic. The villains, the Legion, they have several boss-style enemies, and it feels like a Saturday morning G.I. Joe-style cartoon with adult-style violence, and that's cool, but the game doesn't really display that amazing personality in the moment-to-moment gameplay and in the city and the environments. I mean, you go into cars, there's barely any music playing, the sounds of the cars aren't really loud or impactful. If you go into an agency vehicle, you don't even have radio stations. You have this really generic kind of bland dubstep that's just droning on, and it really just leaves no impression whatsoever. In fact, if you go into the game's options, one of the game's audio settings is just to mute music, as to say there's no music in this game worth listening to anyways. And as silly as it seems, the absence of melodies and music and things like that, it kind of makes you feel how sterile everything is. It doesn't feel alive. There's no chatter. There's no characters singing along. If you played Saints Row, you know there's always great moments where the characters sing along to the radio stations. That doesn't even exist because there's no music to begin with. If you look at how they used licensed music in the Saints Row games before, from Kanye West Power to, You Will Survive and I Need a Hero, those were not just great songs, but they were used to add drama, and they made certain scenes in the game memorable and added a sense of excitement and danger or fun. And that just doesn't exist in a game where you're playing as superpowered agents. It doesn't ever do that. If you watch the trailers for Agents of Mayhem, they use the Knight Rider theme, the Magnum PI theme, and they use them in ways that make sense. But in the first mission of this game where you get your superpowered car, there's no Knight Rider theme. There's no Mad Max theme. There's none of the music and life that were in the trailers. None of that exists in the game itself. Now, I don't know if that was a conscientious choice, or if that was just like, oh, we don't want to pay for licensing, it's a new IP, we don't want to take that risk. Whatever the cause is, not having it has a noticeable effect on the feeling of excitement in the game and what you're doing. The other problem is they have the whole persona and attitude of a G.I. Joe. Your characters have code names, the villains have code names, it's all a little bit ridiculous and over the top. But in terms of the attitude and the music and the pizzazz, it also doesn't go far enough in that way. Every time your character activates a Mayhem ability, which are their unique supers, think of like a Overwatch or something in terms of your character power, there's a little bit of a song that's unique to that character, and that's really cool, but that doesn't exist anywhere else in the game. It's not like switching characters changes the theme like a Marvel vs. Capcom does, or it's not like every time you swap to a new person you get a little ditty that is, personalized to them. It's just that little 10 seconds of music while you activate your super, and that's it. That's as far as it goes when it comes to audio presentation, and it really just kind of hampers stuff because when you don't have the co-op, when you don't have the music and all the frills and the things on the side and the life in the environment, the NPCs having really hilarious dialogue and interactions. When you don't have that, you're forced to focus on what you do have. And unfortunately, what they do have is not very much. Almost every single mission, whether it's a main story mission, a side quest, a character loyalty mission, involves running to a marker, locating a computer terminal to hack, or just going to a marker and killing all the enemies in that area. Or killing all the enemies in an area and then doing a computer hack, which is an extremely simple minigame, which thankfully it's not too long and obtuse, but it's also so easy that it's not really necessary in the first place. And that's literally the entire game. From the beginning of the game to the end of the game, you just do nothing but that. And the rewards for doing these very meaningless side quests just don't feel worth it. You know, you have character skins, and the game has an extravagant layer on top of the base game where you have this agency and there's upgrades and you have tons of RPG mechanics. Every character can get to level 20. There's ways to push your levels past that. There's multiple passive abilities and modifiers to character abilities. All of that doesn't really feel necessary because you're doing all that work and then you're taking all that work to go out into an open world environment that doesn't really feel rewarding to play around in, explore, or do missions in. Almost every single mission involves you going to this really generic lair where it's all silver, full of explosive red barrels, and that's kind of it. You go through 3 or 4 rooms, you kill all the enemies, you leave. You have this amazing looking city in Seoul, South Korea, but you don't have any of the personality. You're not listening to South Korean radio stations. You don't feel like you're in a different culture. It just feels very lifeless, drab, and that's very sad because that's extremely not like Volition. They are usually very good at filling the world and their cities with a lot of personality and character, and the environments and the areas and stuff you're exploring are just as important as the characters themselves. And unfortunately, when you have a mission structure that's that repetitive and a world that's not fun to be in, missions that aren't fun to beat, and then you have rewards that are pretty deep and complex for a game of this nature, but ultimately only serve for you to go back into that very boring city and very drab set of side content, it almost becomes, why are you playing? And so then you're forced to play the main storyline, and that's where you get a little bit of hope and shine, because the main storyline, while not breaking that structure, at least is full of lots of animated cutscenes and a lot of dialogue between the agents that, you know, that's the best part of the game. So as long as you're sticking to the main story missions, you'll get most of the good stuff. And it hurts because I love them. I love the games they make. I am a huge fan of Saints Row, and I was really excited to see Agents of Mayhem and see if they can push it to another level, you know, being a next-gen game, their first new IP, and unfortunately, the ties that it has to Saints Row only serve to remind me of the stuff it's missing. The co-op, the life in the environment, the music, the style, the attitude. It's just not there in the places where it needs it, and ultimately it feels like a very empty, soulless, open-world action game that, while it plays well, and the mechanics of swapping between the 3 agents and the fighting and the actual storyline you do get through its cutscenes that play for every few missions, all that is great, but all I can think of are the things that this game should have. And I couldn't shake it. Even though I've been having fun playing the game and there's something pulling me in because I'm 25 hours deep and I've played through the entire thing. So there's something there that obviously kept me going, whether that was the characters themselves or the possibility of seeing where it was going to go in terms of boss fights, because those are usually a very good part of the game. I couldn't help but just notice all the things that dragged it down. So whereas if they had those other things, this would have been an easy 5 out of 5 recommendation. I'm going to have to knock the score down to a 3 out of 5. I feel like this is a really good base for them to work off of, and if they're allowed to continue to work on this franchise and ultimately make an Agents of Mayhem 2, everything I said are things that Volition in the past have proven they are masters at. So I really hope that they can get back there and really put their foot down and show that they aren't just Saints Row game makers. Problem is, with this state of gaming the way it is now, if a game flops, it's very hard to make a sequel. And I'm not saying that Agents of Mayhem is a flop or that it should deserve to flop. I think it's fun in some aspects, but it just has so many things like that just hold it back from being truly great. So that's my opinion, my factual one. 3 out of 5. Just, it could have been so much more, but instead it's just good. But I expect greatness from them, and I'm sure they expect it from themselves. If you like this review, please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. You can check out actual more gameplay of me playing this game at twitch.tv/NamTalks. My cat is going crazy. I apologize. Thanks everybody for watching. I am NamTalks. I'll see all of you guys next time.